This is another episode of the Tea Party Guide to Washington, and we're in Kalorama. We're not just the DC ruling class, but the global ruling class, or much of it lives. Occasionally their minions choose to live in Mount Pleasant, and their media flacks tend to live in Chevy Chase and Foxhall and Kent and Berkeley and Cleveland Park. But a lot of people actually live here. The building you see way up at the end of the block, which we're going to walk towards, this is the 2400 block of California Street, is a luxury condo building. It has it's two buildings, and it has maybe either two condos or four condos on each floor. I've been in them, they're very large. They're all like 2,000 square feet. Morton Kondracki, the journalist who's bumped around a lot, I don't know where he is now, roll call, that's where he lives. But this is the kind of neighborhood where the simpler apartments tend to be rented out by World Bank bureaucrats and Chris Wallace and David Brock of Media Matters and the lobbyist Anthony Podesta, who funds Center for American Progress, lives here. You're going to see some election signs because we are having our DC primary today. One of the things that people are voting for in the primary is people who sit on the national committees, maybe both political parties, I'm not sure. Here's the sign for Terry Galvez. All the states have one woman and one man running or on the national committee, and Terry is running for the female seat. It's very interesting because she's the first Latino woman to run in the Republican National Committee for a seat. And she's running against a woman named Jill Homan, who's probably one of the first lesbians to run. Although that's not a big part of her campaign, she doesn't talk about it. But what's interesting is that one way or another, there's either going to be a Hispanic woman or a lesbian in the Republican National Committee seat, the women's seat representing D.C. Anyway, here we still are, and there seem to be a lot of people doing something here. They have diplomatic plates. Almost looks like people getting ready to go to a wedding. The house across the street in the shade with the little black car is David Brock's house, which when he bought it only cost like $1.75 million, and given the real estate market in DC slightly flattened, maybe that's all it's worth. 2310 California. He just broke up with a boyfriend, so I keep waiting for a for sale sign to emerge, but it hasn't happened yet. He also supposedly has gone crazy and now has his assistant carrying an unlicensed Glock, so just videoing his house might mean that somebody will come out with a gun. I don't know. Anyway, there's his car, David Brock's car, David Brock's house. This is just to show you the ritziness and ruling class character and all whiteness of the Kalorama neighborhood that David Brock chooses to live in. And I can tell you just from the people I'm seeing on the street right now that everybody I see who is black or Hispanic is either a gardener or in a chef's uniform or is a driver in a car. Although there are people who are ambassadors of various countries who live here too. That's where David Brock chooses to live. That's I believe it's called the St. Nicholas. It's a luxury condo building where Morton Kondracki did live. I think he still does. He tragically had a wife who I think passed away, who he cared for a long time. She had multiple sclerosis, and they both lived there. I do not know if perhaps after she passed away he sold it and bought something else because, all the memories that would have been tied up there. Anyway, this is 23rd Street. I used to work for a little real estate company right around the corner from here. OEO. OEA. The Royal Thai Embassy Educational Affairs Bureau. Don't really quite know what to make of that. And this is Tracy Place. Look at how manicured this lawn is. Here's a house that actually has such a private backyard that it has a woods built around it. In an earlier version of this tape, here's something that, the Embassy of the Arab Republic of Egypt Defense Office. Looks kind of quasi-abandoned. Maybe they come in the back. I made earlier tapes of this neighborhood, including more or less the summit I'm making now, which I seem to have misplaced. And the other tape that I made, which went from the back of Chris Wallace's house to Anthony Podesta's house, which are only a couple blocks apart. Someone commented on how all the cars on the street looked so cheap, given the luxuriousness of the facades of the houses. And I had to explain to them that what was going on was all these houses have garages. And frequently they might even have a driveway and a garage in the front, like this one. But if they're larger, they probably have underground garages and garages in the back and driveways in the back and virtual parking lots in the back. And so the cars that you see, especially on the street, but also probably even ones that are on the corner in the front or in the driveway in the front, those are the nannies and the cooks and the bottle washers and the massage therapist and the help, the gardener. Those are not the cars that belong to these people who live here. These people have limousine services and car services, and their own rather expensive cars are in general parked in the garage that's underneath their house, which you access from the back. So the $4 million and up house combined with the less expensive here's a carriage house over the garage, combined with the less expensive car, is explained by that. Although we do here have a Mercedes parked on the street. And actually that was a BMW and that's a Mercedes. But they might actually even belong to the help. Now I'm already at 8 minutes, which means I'm only doing another minute of this tape. And my purpose really was to get from David Brock's house to Chris Wallace's house, which amusingly, if you walk without talking a lot and you kind of go in a straight line, one can do it in just about 10 minutes, walking at a normal pace while carrying an iPad and staring down strangers who think you're crazy. So, I'm now on Chris Wallace's block, and I have about 50 seconds to actually get to the front of his house. Since I more or less like Chris Wallace, I'm not telling you his address the way I told you that David Brock lives at 2310 California Street. But then, to my knowledge, Chris Wallace has never libeled or smeared anyone or told his staff people to carry an unlicensed Glock in D.C. so that they could have it to, what, protect him, make threats if someone tried to interview him. Unclear what the purpose is. Anyway, one of these 3 or 4 story brown brick cuties over on the right of your screen